In this video, we take a closer look at the fundamentals of machining, a method frequently used in manufacturing. The desired shape of the component is produced by removing material. Depending on the required geometry and surface quality, various tools are available for these machining processes. Examples include sawing, turning, drilling, milling, and broaching, as well as grinding, polishing, and honing. These manufacturing processes can be distinguished by whether the tool has a geometrically defined cutting edge. In the processes marked in yellow, the cutting edges do not have a predetermined geometric shape. For example, abrasive particles or those in polishing pastes have varying geometric forms. These processes are therefore considered to have geometrically undefined cutting edges. In contrast, the processes marked in white have cutting edges with a defined geometric shape that recurs consistently. Essentially, all manufacturing processes using such geometrically defined cutting edges share a common feature. The cutting edge shape can be traced back to the shape of a wedge. Hence, the term cutting wedge is used. So note, the basic shape of the cutting edges in tools with geometrically defined cutting edges is the wedge. The material separating effect of cutting edges is based on the so-called wedge effect. In everyday life, we encounter the wedge effect, for example, when wedging a door to keep it from closing on its own. A wedge is pushed between the floor and the door with relatively little force. However, due to the wedge shape, very high forces perpendicular to the wedge surfaces develop, ultimately jamming the door. Pushing the wedge harder could even lift the door out of its hinges. This is the principle underlying the material separation by cutting wedges. To better understand the forces acting on a cutting wedge, we consider the example of splitting a workpiece with a chisel. The chisel tip forms a typical cutting wedge. By striking with a hammer, a vertical force is applied. Like a snowplow pushing snow, the wedge displaces material perpendicular to its faces. These perpendicular forces are the separation forces that ultimately split the material, much like the earlier example of lifting a door from its hinges. So note, the separation forces always act perpendicular to the wedge surfaces. The basic aim in all machining processes is to generate the highest possible separation forces with minimal applied force. So, how are the applied force, in this case the hammer force on the chisel, and the resulting separation forces related? This relationship can be illustrated using a force parallelogram. Let's assume a wedge angle beta equals 50 degrees. The downward force applied to the chisel is F equals 800 newtons. To determine the resulting separation forces graphically, we first choose a suitable force scale to convert force to drawing length. In our case, we choose the scale so that 1 centimeter corresponds to a force of 100 newtons. Therefore, we draw our force arrow for a force of 800 newtons with a total length of 8 centimeters. Since this force acts vertically downward, we also draw our force arrow pointing straight down. We begin the force arrow at the tip of the cutting wedge. Now, although we do not yet know the exact magnitude of the separation forces, we do know that they always act perpendicular to the wedge surfaces. Therefore, we can at least draw the directions of these forces, also called lines of action, into the diagram, even if the exact lengths of these force vectors are not yet known. We also begin drawing the force directions from the tip of the wedge, taking special care to ensure that the separation forces, and thus the lines of action, are oriented perpendicular to the wedge surfaces. We now move both lines of action parallel so that they pass through the endpoint of the drawn force vector. To do this, we place the set square on the line of action of one of the separation forces and then slide it parallel until we reach the endpoint of the drawn force vector. This parallel displacement can be carried out either with the help of a second ruler or by using the parallel guidelines printed on the set square. We repeat the same process with the second separation force, shifting it parallel through the force vector's endpoint. This results in a parallelogram where the intersections between the original and displaced lines of action define the lengths of the separation force vectors. These run from the starting point of the original applied force to the intersection points. We can now measure the arrow lengths and convert them using our scale. With an arrow length of approximately 9.5 centimeters, this gives a separation force of around 950 newtons on each side of the wedge. This graphical approach clearly shows how an applied force generates separation forces along the wedge surfaces. The original applied force can now be removed from the diagram as it is represented by the resulting separation forces. This graphical method also illustrates how changes in the wedge angle affect separation forces. A smaller wedge angle causes the force directions to become flatter. Assuming the same applied force, the intersection points move further outward, increasing the separation forces. Reducing the wedge angle from 50 degrees to 30 degrees increases the separation forces from 950 to approximately 1,550 newtons. This correlates with daily experience. Sharpened cutting wedges with acute angles generate greater separation forces than obtuse angles. As the cutting edge wears due to microscopic material breakouts, the wedge angle increases and the cutting force decreases. This is why cutting tools must be regularly resharpened. Thus, small wedge angles generate large separation forces and are generally advantageous. However, their disadvantage is reduced edge stability, which leads to breakage or wear when machining hard materials. In practice, therefore, it is not possible to select arbitrarily small wedge angles. The choice of wedge angle is ultimately always a compromise between the highest possible cutting force and sufficient stability of the cutting edge. This means, the harder the workpiece material to be machined, the larger the wedge angle must be. When looking at the three illustrated drill bits, this relationship becomes very clear. The large wedge angle required for a drill bit used on hard materials results in a relatively low helix angle of the cutting edges. These are drill bits of the so-called type H. Drill bits for soft materials, on the other hand, have a smaller wedge angle, which leads to a significantly higher helix angle of the cutting edges. These are type W drill bits. Between these two extremes, there are also drill bits with a helix angle that lies in between. These are intended for materials of medium hardness and are referred to as type N. Let us return to the determination of the separation forces. Instead of determining them graphically, these forces can also be calculated analytically. For this purpose, we consider the yellow right-angled triangle. The marked angle corresponds exactly to half of the wedge angle beta. In this case, the dimensions of the triangle do not represent the geometric lengths, but rather the acting forces. This is ultimately based on the fact that by using an arbitrary scale, any force can be converted into a corresponding length and vice versa. The opposite side of the drawn angle equals half the applied force F, and the hypotenuse represents the separation force. Using the sine function, this yields the ratio of half the applied force to the separation force. Solving this equation for the separation force gives the shown formula for calculating the separation forces. Mathematically, this also shows that as beta decreases, the sine value decreases, and the separation force increases.